Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. And we got some great news coming through. Well, I guess it could be considered great, but Major League Baseball is looking to bring back their games. And for people that haven't been following sports because you've checked out or whatever, what their plan is to have all of the teams fly down to Arizona. I would assume they would test everybody there, because otherwise I don't know what the point of that is. But they're going to have them go and play their games where they have spring training. So if you have never been to spring training or watched any of the games or whatever, basically it's a complex where they just have a bunch of different stadiums in a similar area. I mean, it's hard to describe if you've never been down that way. But what they do is they would have the games, and I think what they're planning to do is to record them, or I guess stream them live on sports channels, I don't know, as doubleheaders. And then the players would play, and they're not going to have umpires because they're at risk, especially the age group of umpires. They're usually older. So they're not going to have anything like that. It's going to be electronic. So we might finally get the strike zone. I mean, it might be standardized due to this shortage or shutdown, I guess. And that would be a good thing, because I really wanted to see what that would be like in real life, because they have those wiffle ball tournaments and stuff where they have the backstop and then the strike zone's behind you. But as the ball's curving, it really doesn't cross the plate where it's going to hit that strike zone. So I've seen a lot of those games where it's kind of BS, where the ball's curving way out. You can never hit it with your bat, but because it curves in, it hits that zone on the backdrop. I wonder if the computerized thing is going to be like that, or if they're giving it some leeway and they're actually watching home plate. Because I haven't actually seen it work. They talk about it. They have some demos and things, but I've never seen it in a live game. So it'd be cool to actually see that. But what are your thoughts on it, Matt, getting baseball back?
I think it is going to be great to have something else to watch and be able to discuss. I would be surprised if they went to that monitoring type system as far as keeping the games, because I would think if they're going to be willing to bring the players back, that the umpires would be part of that as well, that would be coming back as well.
But it comes back to paying them. I mean, we talked about it just for officials. Normally the guys doing the games live in that general area. Like, you can get an Indians fan or whatever from Cleveland to drive a couple hours to umpire games in Pittsburgh or vice versa. But even though they have games like every day, they're not having the umps travel. It's not like football. So for them to have them uproot and move to Arizona, like away from their families, a lot of these guys, they're not going to do that, I would imagine. So I think it would be tough to get that. I know they have spring training and things, but that's kind of like a spring vacation. To be called in and say, hey, you know what, you have to leave your home and you're going to come down here and we're not going to give you a pay raise or whatever, because they're talking about not paying the players their full salary already. So if they're not going to pay the players, they're not going to pay the umps. Like, let's not kid around here. So they're talking about prorating it, where if they do something like this, they're not going to play 162 games. They're even talking about doing 7 innings, which is just crazy to me, because how can you have a season like this shortened and less innings whenever you're trying to do things like Hall of Fame? I mean, it's going to knock somebody's numbers down. And that's if the Hall of Fames even exist through this. I know Major League Baseball will most likely pay for it to live, but I saw like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're hurting so bad, like they might have to close because they've lost so much money and they weren't making a ton of money to begin with. Like, do you really think these other Hall of Fames are going to make it through this? They do their entire budget off people coming into their building. And guess what? No one's coming into the building right now. So they're not just losing gates. And I think that's where it's going to be a big loss too. I mean, baseball, for as much as people talk about no one goes anymore or no one watches, they have double the attendance of the NBA. and double the amount of games. So if you don't think that brings in money, like, you're crazy. I mean, if you look at it, I bet if you took the tickets from NHL and NBA, because normally it's about half of what Major League Baseball averages, and you combine them for an entire season and then doubled it because they both only play 82 games or whatever, I mean, that's probably what you would get in lost sales for baseball. So it hurts them more than other sports. Like football, yeah, you only have 16 games of tickets sold. I mean, you have more fans in the seats, but baseball, they make money on 162 games of fans showing up, concession sales, all of this other stuff that they're not going to get if they play in Arizona. They're banking on the TV money, and I would have to imagine they're in talks with Fox, ESPN, CBS, and like NBC, all of these other channels that are showing reruns or who knows what else they're showing. But it's going to get crazy. I mean, would you watch?
Yeah.
Of course you would, because there's nothing else on. That's why they're going to get it done, Matt.
But you know what? I'll say this. Shortening the season, like it. If it's something, because realistically, when do you start watching baseball? You watch the first probably month or so.
Probably never.
And then you dial back in, what? October? When the games become meaningful.
Matt, when has there been a Bucktober? In recent times? Twice? 3 times?
It's happened.
You don't dial back in October, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's enough that someone's bought a t-shirt for it. It's enough that you're charging hot dogs in October, so.
But we're going to see a change here.
But I think you do that, and I think if they do it this way and they do it with the shortened innings, that's such a smart move, because now it's a small change, but I think it also helps with the wear and tear on the players. And when you look at right now, like, a lot of these guys are just like everyone else, where they're doing these workouts from home, and maybe they do have like the personal gyms and home gyms and different stuff that they have the potential to be doing a lot of these workouts on their own. Realistically, when you look at the NFL lockout, how many injuries happened when they came back to work? I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I know that there were a pile of players that had ACL and Achilles type injuries after the lockout ended, because players weren't allowed at the facilities. They weren't allowed with their strength and conditioning coaches, and it led to a lot of extra injuries.
That's a good point. But I'm wondering if this is going to push through further change. Because I thought about this. They've been talking about how they can shorten games. If they're already looking at going 7 innings, why stop there? Because I have a solution that might speed up the game and make it more interesting. What if you did 5 innings with 5 outs? You're still getting almost the same amount of outs. If you do 9 innings at 3 outs, you're getting 27 outs in a game. 5 and 5 is 25. If you do 7 innings, you're only getting 21 outs. The big thing is the teams aren't warming up as much. You're cutting almost half of that out. You don't have pitchers coming in, and guess what? You're going to increase scoring because you have more chances going to the plate. That would be a radical change, and people are going to say, like, no, that will never happen. People have been saying that robotic umps aren't going to happen. But guess what? They are now. And if they want to revolutionize, if this 7-inning thing works, I'm wondering, why stop there? Because if you're going to get into the shortened season and that, and if fans are dialed in more, where they can make up the TV viewership, like let's say this works, and they go from averaging 1 million people watching a game to 5 to 10. Like, that's a dramatic increase. That's going to increase revenues more than having fans in the seats. So why not make it a little bit more interesting? I mean, you're still going to get the same amount of at-bats, basically. Like, you're too short. Like, who really cares? And the pitchers are going to be more tired or whatever. You might even get a starter that could go back to having complete games. I don't know what the effect would be. Would it be more scoring? Would it be less scoring? I would imagine because the batters have more chances, they'd have higher scores, but I don't know. Then you don't have to worry about having extra pitchers and extra arms. They can have pitchers not pitch as many games because you won't be using the relievers, so maybe you have a 6-man rotation instead. Like, they could change a bunch of stuff within that just by being willing to shortening the games, which they are right now. So I would like to see something like that. If you want to really get people to watch, make it interesting. I mean, every other sport has four quarters or 2 halves or whatever. It's very simple to follow. Baseball, you're going 9 innings. There's even a 7-inning stretch because people are tired of the game at that point. If you keep the outs the same and you trick them by doing less innings, I mean, you could even do 4 innings and go 6 outs. That's probably going to be a little bit less. But no, I think 5 and 5 would be perfect. But who knows? That's my idea.
Well, I'm curious just to see if they cut it to 7. I mean, to me, that would definitely cut down on the games. And then even if they do have a lot of later starts, I mean, I know that in the short term this isn't going to affect them, because if they're all just playing them remotely and just televising them, it's not going to affect fan attendance. But you may end up getting more draws to the ballpark, knowing that even if the game goes into extra innings, that you're still going to be able to get out at a decent time.
Yeah, but that's what I'm wondering. How much is it really going to cut off? Because in Pony League and like some of the teenage leagues, I don't know if they have different names around the country, they play 7 innings. The games are still 2+ hours, and that's at that level without TV breaks. I mean, look at the Women's College World Series. How many hours did those games go on? They start at 7, and that softball is basically the same exact sport. I know they don't need as many warm-up pitches as baseball or whatever, but the big thing that takes time is you're still doing extra warm-ups. If you shorten it and did 5 outs, and you have a pitcher that's moving quick, I mean, he does 5 strikeouts or five guys come up and swing at the first pitch and ground out. That inning's over. You're 1/5 of the way done with the game. Or I guess 1/10 of the way if it's half innings. But, I mean, 7 innings, like I've played the games at 7. I've seen them at 7. I've dubbed doubleheaders. I think even in college we did that in spring training. We went to Florida, and I think that's how we played all the games. But you're still doing back-to-backs. You're still there for 4 to 5 hours as a player, and they're going to cut your pay. Like, I know the Players Association, or whatever their name is, I don't know if that's their name, MLB I know they agreed on like a 70% cut or something like that. So it's something crazy where they already have the number that they're willing to take, but now they just actually have to play some games. So I like it better than what other sports are doing. I mean, you wanted to talk about UFC. Why don't you explain to everyone what they're thinking about?
I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I saw Dana White was looking into purchasing an island and just having a remote location for hosting UFC fights and things like that. So if that's approved and they're able to set up that type of venue where they can screen the people involved, and the fighters, the workers, the referees, the everything's, and ensure people are being safe. I mean, there's another sport that they could potentially have more opportunities to showcase the sport and bring more prominence to it, because with there being this dead spot right now, with not a lot of stuff going on, it's an opportunity that if you're willing to take a risk, that you can build up some viewership.
And that's where it's going to make a big difference for some of these sports, because a lot of them, people have been talking about how the leagues are folding and all this stuff, like even the XFL. People didn't expect it to make it to next season. Now, what's going to happen to them? Like UFC, I think that's a good move. But I honestly don't know how you can enforce that, because are you going to have them fight without fans? Are you going to be having people move in and out to the island? Do you put up their families and referees? Do you only look for single refs? There's a whole lot of moving parts. How long is this island in? Do you test them right away? When they come in, do you test them before they leave? Do you test the pilot? All this other stuff. I don't know. I think it's gonna get messy to the point where, even baseball, they're still gonna be in Arizona where there's a ton of people moving around. You're not gonna be able to tell them yo, don't go shop for groceries. Are they gonna test each player before they go out each game? Is Major League Baseball going to handle all of that? Where they have just groceries brought in and they all stay at the same hotel? I don't know. So, I mean, you're asking them to stay away from their families more than what they normally would, I would imagine. And then it's not just the players that travel and all these other people. You're like moving everybody out. There's no home games to go back and relax in your own home. So, same with UFC. You can have them on the island. They could even do like an NCAA tournament fighting bout where they just make a bracket. I would watch that. Could you imagine if they just did fights every week? I don't know how much healing time you need. I would assume amateur boxers fight all the time like that. But that would be cool. You could even switch it. Like each week, heavyweights round, then like the welterweights, lightweights, whatever, featherweights, like go through. So you're just giving them a break. So the first week of each month is heavyweights. Then it like cuts down, and they do just a big tournament. That would cover the entire summer for them.
It would.
Call Dane up, tell him that idea. I think that would work great. People would tune in. They could even do pay-per-view. Now I'm getting out of control. The other one, NBA. They're having basketball players play NBA 2K, which we talked about, playing a video game. I saw ESPN was even trying to talk about how they had an article. I think it was like on the front page, or I don't know if I saw it. I didn't watch the actual thing, but they said something like NBA players are better at basketball than you, and they're better at video games as their tagline to try to get you to watch. Incorrect. There's no way the NBA players are better at video games than most video game guys. I saw a guy take Dark Souls and beat all three of them back to back without getting hit. I guarantee no NBA player could do that. A lot of those guys are just tall. Like, let's be honest, their average athleticism, we see their numbers at the combine. That's why everyone says like NBA players, they're cream of the crop, but you look at some of the numbers that football players put up, they're just not as tall, Matt. Could you imagine if you had like a guy with some of the quickness of some of the football players, like Tyreek Hill? How would they guard him? He just wasn't 6'8", and maybe that's the limitation. I don't know. So I saw that. I thought that was a joke, and I mean, like that. It made me think: who's your target audience? Because kids are going to think that they're better than these guys at video games, so they're not going to watch. Old people aren't going to watch because they don't care about watching people play video games. It's like, what are you trying to do here? If they wanted to really make it interesting, have them play fans, or have them play. Like I said, I think each NBA team has their own video game version. Have the players play them. But they know they'll get their asses whooped. So they're like, well, we can't do that. Because, I mean, you can't spend... How many hours did Kobe do in the gym shooting jumpers? You can't spend 8 hours in the gym shooting jumpers once there's some kid sitting at home shooting jumpers virtually for 8 hours. Like, you're just not going to be as good as him. You don't have enough time to do both. That's all I'm saying. So, I want to see something a little bit more interesting. Show me that. Get all 5 guys, because I think they have like an NBA 2K league where there's 5 guys and each one plays a virtual spot. Have them play against a real team. I would watch that. Because you know they're gonna get the court wiped with them. So, I don't know. They're gonna do horse. Did you see this? They want each player to open up their house, and they're gonna take their shot. Then it's gonna switch live streams to the other player, and he's gonna try to match. So they're not really in the same room, playing on the same rims. Which, I mean, I could just soften my own rim so that all my shots go in. Give yourself an advantage.
Well, maybe that's what people want to see. So I have my little Tykes basketball hoop in my house. We could do our own.
I think I have one. I don't know if they'd match, but yeah, we could do our own version. What's the difference? I was wondering who would watch that. And then my brother said he would watch that. I thought, of course, you got to get someone to watch that stuff. Because, like, instead of playing, Matt, there's a point when you reach where you're so lazy that you don't want to go play horse yourself, but you'll watch other people play. Same with like video games. You're like, hey, I have that game. Should I play it right now? Like, nah. I'm just going to watch them play. That's what I figure the mind process is. Because it's not like you need any tricks. It's not like you're watching a let's play of some challenging game. You need to know where like some secrets are. Like it's a basketball game. You know the secrets. You know how to play. There's no tricks. They even have a tutorial for you. But let's get into football stuff. This is gonna perk you up, Matt. Big news out of Pittsburgh. Bill Cowher, he endorses the idea of Jameis Winston, which we've been talking about for a long time. I don't know if we started it, but I know you're a Florida State guy. We start talking about it. It starts appearing elsewhere. People are probably listening, talking to their friends, and it gets picked up by Bill Cowher. He says, and this is his quote, which we have on the video board. So if you have YouTube, subscribe to our channel, or Facebook, go to Southbound Sports. Make sure you like us. Bill Cowher said, I think it's a great fit on CBS Radio to Boomer Esiason. If he's willing to accept a year sitting behind Ben, and maybe it's 2 years, which I'm thinking, at first I thought, okay, it's not going to be 2 years, but we don't know how the season's going to play out. Because I've talked about it. I don't know if we talk about it on the show. I don't remember how much stuff I talk about with Matt off the air, because I hear stuff constantly. But right now, it's looking like a lot of schools, especially college, have classes canceled. They're only doing essential personnel, and this is for college stuff. And they're talking about maybe possibly pushing back a split season. And the NFL's in the same boat. If they can't get clearance, because what I think is going to happen is they're going to start opening up venues, but it's still going to have a person limit. Like right now, it's down to 10. You can't have an event with more than 10 people. Then it will become 50. Then it'll become 100. It's not going to be like they flip a switch and say, all right, 100,000, Beaver Stadium, see you on Saturday. Like, it's just not going to happen. So Steelers need the okay to have 60,000, whatever their stadium holds, up to 70,000. And I have a hard time believing they're going to get that before August 1st. It might come by August, but at that time, they're probably going to already be talking about other arrangements because they don't want to start the season and have to push it back. I think we'll probably find out in a couple months or so. They're getting pushed back on the draft. I'm hoping that it happens, but we'll see. But what are your thoughts on Jameis? I know we talk about it a lot.
My opinion on it hasn't changed. He even looking at last year's statistics, he was one of the leaders in the NFL in production. So he's young. I think he checks a lot of boxes in terms of the decision making, and I know I've had some criticism of Jimbo Fisher, but with his offensive system, even as other quarterbacks have come through. I know there was an interview E.J. Manuel had when he was drafted by Buffalo that they talked about learning the playbook and the different nuances, and he said, honestly, my playbook with Jimbo Fisher was a lot more complicated. So as far as learning the scheme and the X's and O's, that's never been the issue for Jameis. The issue's always been performing within the NFL scheme of trying to push the ball downfield and getting himself into the turnovers, which in Pittsburgh, that's not an issue because Roethlisberger's been doing the exact same thing. Pittsburgh lives by the deep ball. Jameis has a really strong arm and can push the ball down the field. I think that he would be a natural person to take over in the event that Roethlisberger goes down with an injury. And to me, I didn't see enough out of Rudolph or Duck Hodges to feel like, yeah, if Ben decides to retire or gets injured or has any kind of issue, I don't feel comfortable handing the keys over to them, and I don't know that there's a viable option in the draft. So if you're willing to make the numbers work, then I think it's a no-brainer bringing Jameis in and having him be the backup, knowing that the opportunity is going to be there to take over maybe sooner rather than later.
At first, I thought you were going to talk about his decision-making as a whole. Like how he thought that he could just go in and grab more crab legs.
Would you shut up?
I carry a Bojangles box around. I come in and I'm like, I need some more Supremes. Give me some Supremes in this box. I bought these a few days ago. The old Jameis Winston trick. That's where I learned that.
Just keep beating that horse.
Or you could have said his vision, because he got the laser eye surgery finally.
Well, that's the other thing. Who knows? Maybe that's what the issue was. He was squinting and having those issues, and now that he got LASIK, he's going to be just dropping dimes on people.
I mean, well, in all honesty, if we end up stop joking, it might happen, because the Bill Cowher decision, I didn't listen to the whole clip, but they were talking about beforehand where I guess he's getting like no offers. That's the rumor in the NFL. Like, he's been looking for a team. And if you're Jameis and you're looking around the league and, like you said, Rudolph and Hodges, how can he not sit there and think, okay, Ben's coming off an injury. He might never play again. We don't know. He sent that one video. Have you ever seen him throw again? Like, I assume he's doing workouts. I haven't seen it. It's almost like Ryan Shazier. People thought he was coming back. So, and that's not a knock on Steelers fans, but you have to be ready in that second scenario. And then I think I saw something where people were digging up old Mike Tomlin quotes, and he said something like he wasn't comfortable handing the keys or something to either of those guys. And I remember talking about that on the show a while ago. I think it was about Hodges after he threw an interception or something in the one game to lose it. And I mean, if he's out there thinking that as a backup, Jameis has to think, if I'm going to sign anywhere, this is where I'm going to sign. I mean, the only other place, like I said, was maybe New England. You go in and try to beat out their starter and just do a Tom Brady swap. I don't know how that would work with Belichick, but you never know. I think the opportunity's there. Like you said, it fits the scheme. So let's go with it. Keeping on a serious note, around the NFL, we also have our next story. Rex Ryan, he called Amari Cooper a turd. He said, this is who he is. He doesn't love football. Hell with it. He stops his routes. He does all this. I wouldn't have paid this turd. No way in hell. No way in hell would I have paid this guy. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Wow. Those are fighting words. It's one of those comments. When I originally heard it, my initial reaction was, so what? It's not like he comes from a family of people that are very conservative and don't speak their mind. So, consider the source.
Why would you say that? Because he has foot fetish videos?
Foot fetish videos because his dad was punching people during games in the face. The history is there of just aggressiveness, and it doesn't surprise me that he would say something off the cuff like that. But as much as we've joked and talked about similar situations, it's understanding how sensitive a lot of people are now becoming, and it's definitely something that if you're looking at it through the wrong perspective, that it's going to come off very bad and in poor taste. I know that his intent was that he doesn't like him as a player, but when you see the production that Dallas was able to get out of him, it makes sense. To me, I think they would have much been better off. To the point that Rex was making was that instead of giving the money to Cooper, they should have paid Dak, which I agree with 100%. He's been after a new contract, and I think that if they were going to reward a player for it, it should have been the guy getting the ball out. Because if Dallas finds themselves in a situation where Dak decides to hold out or just not play under his contract, they're going to be in trouble because Dak's running the shit. He's running the show.
Yeah, when has paying a receiver actually worked out? I feel like it's a broken record at this point. We talk about it all the time. Every time someone spends out that big contract, everyone talks about it with running backs and how they have a short shelf life. When does it work out with receivers? Because that big money guy is going to start not getting the ball. He's going to complain about it, trying to earn his next paycheck. And where are you at? I mean, Antonio Brown, he hired an agent He's trying to get back into it, Matt.
Yeah, and he has new charges.
Oh, that's off the field stuff, Matt. Come on.
After you just brought up about Jameis, shut your mouth.
I mean, it's going to be a crazy year. He could end up playing with Tom Brady.
Well, here's the funny thing is that it seems like every time there's any kind of inkling that somebody might be remotely interested in signing him or talking to him, something pops up with him doing something legally to get himself in trouble. So at this point, I almost wonder, is he just doing stuff to sabotage himself?
The old Colin Kaepernick.
Absolutely.
I don't know. That's a good point. We'll see if he actually signs with someone, because that's when it's going to be the big thing. At this point, if he does come back and he has a pick of teams, playing on that loaded Tampa Bay offense would be a great fit for him.
You know what? The real place for him to sign would be Atlanta. What they really need is a wide receiver.
I know you're just trying to make me go crazy. I don't even know if they would. Why would they? That would be something they would do, because every time you kept sending me Falcon signings and they're all offensive guys. I said, send me one that's a defensive guy. Then I'll look at it. All day, Matt's sending me stuff for the show. He's like, look at all these guys the Falcons are signing. I said, I don't care. They already have Julio. They're not going to be talking about all these guys during the regular season. So, I don't know. Anything else you have for the NFL?
Nope, not right now.
Yeah, we'll see if the draft comes up. I think that'll be the next big thing that's rolling out in a week or two. So next week's show will probably be the draft, unless something crazy happens with Major League Baseball. Switching gears now to basketball. I don't know if we talked about this. I don't think so, because it was on our to-do list. But Michigan State coach Tom Izzo sought out a witness in that 2017 criminal investigation of his player. And if you remember, he's been having a back and forth with his former assistant coach, Blackwell. And I've seen reports on both sides where Tom Izzo is trying to sue him for his lawyer charges, which I don't know how he has any money. He's already been out of coaching for a while to pay for his own lawyer and then also pay for Tom Izzo's lawyer. So I'm thinking this could get uglier as it keeps going on, because every time Tom Izzo says something, Blackwell puts something else out. Like they had, was it D'Antonio? Or no, wait, which one was it? I think it's like the same investigation. I could be wrong. But it might be the D'Antonio one. I might be getting my Michigan State cases mixed up here. Let's look it up real quick while I'm talking about it. But Michigan State's under a whole new thing. They talked about, I think the Attorney General has been looking to reopen the case. I think it's the Tom Izzo one. I think that's why they had new, evidence in the case. So if you've been watching that, it's not just about the extra off the field stuff that they have going on, but they're just in a world of hurt. I don't see anything on here. Do you have anything else on that?
No, I just think Michigan State's in such a bad spot right now with all of their other legal stuff that they're just looking to try to stop the bleeding, and anything to try to get the press off of them and these court stuff off of them. I think they're going to be trying to do.
And well, here, this is why I'm always getting confused. So ESPN did an outside the lines that was tying Tom Izzo, Larry Nasser, or Nasir, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and it was, what does it say? Former blah blah blah. The basketball, he has a bunch of questions where he needs to answer, because he has a former assistant, Travis Walton, was allowed to coach, and he had criminal charges against him for punching a female student in the face at a bar. And so this is from ESPN. So I mixed them up. Blackwell is the football assistant. Travis Walton is the basketball one. Blackwell's the one that I think is getting sued by D'Antonio for his lawyers. He wants them to pay for him, even though he was putting out the other images or whatever. It's weird. Why would one school have all these investigations at one time? It's almost like it's crazy. Especially Izzo's such a legend. They always talk about him. If he would end his career right now during the coronavirus shutdown, it'd be amazing. So, I don't know. I don't have anything else on that. Keeping up with the college football stuff. Or college talk. Getting into college football. Our man Mike Leach, Matt, he's under fire. Because he said out, I have the actual tweet here. I'm not going to mess up my notes here like I did for Michigan State. So Coach Leach sends out this tweet that says, after 2 weeks of quarantine with her husband, Gertrude decided to knit him a scarf. And it's a picture of a lady knitting a noose. So this came out. I have a screenshot of the tweet. He tweeted that out on April 1st, 7:44 p.m., Matt, which a lot of people know is April Fool's Day. So he's making a joke. Obviously not a good one, because a lot of people came at him, especially his players, and one of their dads said that he's questioning the leadership of someone that would tweet this out. And we have a football scoop, so things that happened today. Mike Leach announced, I don't have a date on this one, but he is going to be participating in listening sessions with people from the Mississippi State community to increase his cultural awareness. So I looked into this, and they're going to have him go to like the Civil Rights Museum, a bunch of other like things around town, and he's going to go and hear from people as they explain their cultural heritage to him. So, Coach, what are your thoughts on that?
Here's the first thing. Michigan State or Mississippi State people, did you not know who you were hiring as your football coach? Have you not listened to an interview with him? Have you not seen any of his posts on his Twitter account? Like, how oblivious are you?
He deleted it.
Well, I know but that was the thing that surprised me at first, was the fact that there was all, like, people were so up in arms about this. But again, this is another, just like similar to the Rex Ryan comments. I saw that post from Mike Leach, and I didn't bat an eye, knowing that that's the kind of like post that he wasn't meaning anything negative by it. It was just because of a lot of similar memes of being in quarantine that I've seen being posted throughout different social media. But understanding that he's now, and this was one of the concerns that we had talking about with him going to different jobs, is it where when he was up at Washington State and he was up in Pullman, he could kind of get away with posting stuff like that because he had brought them back to a level of prominence that they would let things like that slide. Where now that he's in a bigger, higher profile school, now that they're going to be a lot more sensitive to comments and things that he is saying.
You know what that made me think? He would have been perfect at Florida State, Matt. They have a stellar social media team where they do things like the Martin Luther King chop.
Yeah.
Mike Leach slides right in.
He could have went right in, but then he would have just blended in with all of that nonsense. And
well, I guess you'd have to ask yourself then, is that even a higher profile job? What was that? Do I have you triggered now?
Nope, I'm good. I am good on that front.
I mean, there's really no... I see he made a joke. He obviously didn't make the image. I would assume he saw that somewhere and saved it. If he has time to sit around making these, then I would be shocked.
But that was the thing that surprised me, is leading up to it, there were a series of different things that he was posting that weren't quite to that level, but it was just different, like picture memes and things that you would come across. But the people at Mississippi State turned it into this racial thing, and they're gonna as part of it, he's going to these different museums and things like that. So mean, it's not like they're dealing with an uneducated person. With Leach having a law degree and understanding, I would think that he's not purposefully trying to do things to damage the reputation of the school, and I would think that that other people would see through that. But if it makes them sleep better, if it makes those people wanting to increase his cultural awareness, then it'll be good for him to go to some museums after he's allowed to clear out. But I did see that Football Scoop article, and that was from today.
Okay. I saw that they announced it. I saw that he put it on his Twitter. He apologized and pinned it. I mean, I already had the screenshot because I follow him. So I didn't even know he deleted it until I got a text today from a buddy of mine. It was like, hey, did you see the Mike Leach tweet? And I'm like, another one? Like, I knew that one was going to cause controversy. That's why I screenshot it. But and I'm like, no, I guess it's the same one. So nothing else. In terms of, for the rest of the show, there's not really anything else. We have the draft coming up, college football season, latest I've heard. And like I said, I already mentioned it for the NFL stuff. There's been talks about possibly pushing the NFL season and college football back. And I had even mentioned, I think we talked about it on the show, where they had mulled just getting rid of the non-conference games and playing a compressed conference schedule. That really doesn't help the NFL. They're not going to want to cut out. And the TV partners, if we're being honest, they're not going to want to give up football games. They're willing to push them back into January and February. Now, where that's really going to hurt is what's going to happen at the XFL next year, because they already have ESPN, ABC, Fox, and what's the other one? Is it Fox Sports 1? Like, they had already locked up the XFL contract to run football games all the way through April. If the NFL pushes back their start and you have playoffs pushing those out, the XFL is probably going to be done. Like, I don't see how they're going to be able to. They're not going to have their games the same time as the NFL, because they would be competing with the NFL playoffs if it gets pushed back. So I really hope that doesn't happen, because I don't want the XFL to be pushed out. I guess they could push back another year. I don't know. College, it really comes down to a lot of colleges are already, and this isn't an insider take, but a lot of colleges are already talking about the possibility of having fall classes remote again. So if one university starts it, like let's say Ohio State says that they're doing all online since a lot of the stuff has been started by Ohio, do you really think other schools are going to not follow suit? Because it's just opening themselves up to lawsuits if someone would come on, get sick. Worst case scenario, a bunch of students start to die. Like, what would happen? It would just go to level 100. So they're going to stay safe. And if they don't put the students back on, they're not going to have the football players come back. Like, if we're being honest.
But I think there's a lot of things that are going to that are factoring in between now and then.
Definitely.
I think you have to take this.
But the scary part is, Matt, they're already talking about it.
But I think that there were a lot of schools, and I'm thankful that with my school district in particular, they had a lot of, because we had some grants and our students had access to iPads and some different electronic things, we were already building it in, that we were ahead of the curve in terms of if we were going to go to like our snow days, we were going to use this flex instruction. So we kind of had already talked about it and had a plan approved. So the transition to the online format has been pretty smooth for us. There have been other districts that were not thinking about any of these procedures, and even now are in this scramble mode of trying to figure out how they're going to provide education for all students and different things like that. So I think what you're seeing right now is you're seeing this move of make sure that everyone has what they need, because the other side to this is if they're gonna stay remotely, how are they going to make sure that all students are having equal opportunities? Because if you have good internet access and technology at your house, but there are students that do not, then that's going to put them at a competitive disadvantage.
Oh, I 100% agree.
So I think that's going to be where it plays into effect. So I think if things go to plan, I would be very, very shocked if they delay the start of football season. And not just because I'm biased to my profession, but I think football generates so much money for this country that I think that they're going to do everything in their power to cram as much treatment and medicine technology and different things to try to have it so that we're ready to go come at the latest late September, beginning of October.
Oh, I have bad news for you, Matt. They shut down Broadway. That's just as big as football.
No, it's not.
I don't know. That's just what I'm hearing, and I'm worried because they're not going to... I mean, if baseball gets away with doing it, though, and they're stealing all of the television views, guess what? Other sports are coming back. Let's be honest. If baseball comes back, basketball is going to come back. The bad thing with basketball is they didn't shut their teams down. Like, they're looking back in hindsight, but go back through and see how many NBA teams were still all hanging out and going out to clubs and stuff and all had the virus. Like, there was that one player that was messing around with the cups or whatever while he had it. So, talking about not taking it serious, that's what makes me crack up whenever NBA players and like, oh yeah, well, we can't come back because of this. Like, if you guys already all had it, what's the difference? Like, you can go in a closed gym. You don't have to go play horse at your house.
Yeah.
Like, if you already healed back up, go play a game. What's the difference? Like, just play in a closed court and stream it with one camera. It's not that hard to shoot a basketball game. You're just going back and forth, back and forth. You need one camera guy for that. So, that's my final thoughts. We'll see what happens. If baseball pushes through, though, Matt, mark my words, NBA will be live within the next couple weeks because they're not going to miss the opportunity. I mean, LeBron's getting old as it is. Who do they have to take his star power after he leaves? They haven't marketed any player to that level besides Steph Curry, and he was hurt this year. So, their team's in dead last. They're not even playing in the playoffs.
Well, to be fair, no one's playing in the playoffs.
Yet. Till they do an NCAA-style tournament, Matt. Things are going to get crazy. If baseball comes back with shortened seasons and weird doubleheaders, the NBA is going to come back and have their finals be like a single elimination tournament or something. You watch. They'll try to get all the viewers. And then people will love it so much more than their regular finals that then they'll be like, oh, what do we do next year? Because that's what's going to happen. Like I said, if baseball's viewers go up through the roof, they're going to make permanent changes. We'll be seeing robot refs. We'll be seeing 5-inning games, 7-inning games, whatever they end up doing. It's going to come around. So, that's it. Thanks for listening. Check out our site. Go to our YouTube. I know I made fun of video game stuff, but we've been streaming the March Madness. We're doing it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday right now. 4 games a night, 7, 8, 9, and 10 o'clock. I put them up. Of course, they're not. I didn't do them actually live because my first test failed on YouTube. They went to some new upload studio or something. So they're premiering. I don't know if that hurts our visibility or not, but you can definitely check them out. I record them and then upload them right after. So I think we're in the final round of the opening games. So check that out. Tell your friends we're still going live on Tuesday nights on Facebook for this show. And you can still download the show. We're not stopping even though there's not really any sports. We have the NFL draft coming up. So go to southboundsports.com for the rest of our episodes. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.